Okay, so in this video, we revised the character of Lady Macbeth, one that it will be important for you to know. So I've said in direct knowledge, Lady Macbeth acts as the emasculating, so she takes away the masculinity, manipulator of Macbeth. She's the antithesis or the opposite of the typical Jacobean wife of the time. Couple of key points that link to context. So Jacobean wives were meant to be pious, so religious, holy. They were supposed to be demure, so not kind of forceful. They should be delicate. They should be submissive to the husbands. In Lady Macbeth, Shakespeare presents the opposite of this. She's forceful. She's demanding. She emasculates her husband, takes away his masculinity. She's visceral. She's violent. By the end of the play, we see role reversal with the husband. She loses her power and becomes weak and pathetic, whereas he loses his weakness and actually becomes quite arrogant and quite tyrannical after he's seen the witches again. So they kind of like switch sides, okay, through the play. At the beginning of the play, Macbeth writes a letter to his wife and he calls her his dearest partner of greatness. And I think the message is clear here at the beginning. She is his everything. That superlative, a superlative is a word with an est suffix. And she says he's the dearest thing that she's got, the most important thing to him. Okay. Furthermore, she is, according to Macbeth, his partner. Partner is a noun that links to the idea of equality. Macbeth suggests that these two are better when they're together. She isn't like some kind of trophy wife to him. He sees her as his equal. That's what makes him a bit of a hero at the beginning. We see this as a marriage, like I say, of a partnership and equality. She's not just a silent wife. And although he is chivalrous and he is kind of heroic in the way he talks about her in these glowing terms, there's also something that's quite foreboding about this line. When he says she's his dearest partner, we get the idea that he'd do anything for her. And, you know, this comes true, doesn't it? Because he kills Duncan, really, partially because she manipulates him. We could argue, perhaps, that his love's too strong. Lady Macbeth receives this letter, but she questions Macbeth, and she thinks that he's not ambitious enough in order to kill Duncan and get what she wants. So she starts to control him. She says that he's too full of human kindness and that she needs to pour spirits in thine ear for him to be brave and bold. So that first metaphor implies that femininity and purity and whiteness is the only thing that fills Macbeth. As an audience, we question this. You know, we've seen him be barbaric on the battlefield. We've seen him carve a passage, slice somebody from the nave to the chaps, okay, place the head on the battlements. We've seen him barbarian, but she thinks that he's just full of feminine milk. She also shows signs of self-empowerment in the second quotation. You know, she uses the rapid verb pour. She says that she's going to pour. She's not going to stop forcing badness into him. We think about when we pour something from a glass, you know, the liquid doesn't stop running. So she's not going to stop pouring badness into him. I also think it's important that you think about the word spirits here. She's talking to the audience in soliloquy, and she basically admits that she's at one with the supernatural, that she's got evil within her. She doesn't hide it. So she's the opposite of a pious and holy wife. As an audience, back 1 scene 4, we see the kind of woman she is, and she's not typical of the time. Okay, so to emasculate means to take away masculinity. Lady Macbeth calls her husband green and pale. Green, sickly, weak, not virile or masculine. Again, we've seen Macbeth be called a hero. Okay, Duncan, chosen by God, he's talked about how he is a valiant cousin, worthiest gentleman, noble Macbeth. So it seems somewhat strange that his own wife would criticise him by calling him green. When we think about pale, I want to think about Elizabeth I, okay? Those famous portraits of Elizabeth I where she's got that powder white skin. In the Jacobean times, to be pale meant to be kind of beautiful in a feminine sense, because it shows that they weren't peasants working in the fields. Lady Macbeth ridicules him by calling him pale. She says that he's nothing more than a kind of noble woman. Okay. She says that he lacks the masculinity to do what he needs to do. Again, she should be doing his bidding, but really she's the antithesis of what a typical wife should be. But this emasculation is manipulation. She does it to get what she wants. She tells her husband to look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. And this is Lady Macbeth's forceful nature to her husband. Think about the imperative verbs in this: look and be. We get the sense that she's in charge. She doesn't sound desperate when she uses imperatives. She sounds forceful. In this command, she insists to her husband that he's got to be what we call duplicitous to succeed. He's got to have a dual personality. She says, be like a flower, something pretty, innocent, kind of decorative, but be a serpent. And we know that that word serpent links to the serpent in the Garden of Eden. She basically says he's got to be evil and he's got to be sly. So again, we see the idea that she directs him. Some audiences would see that as quite empowering for a woman, but we do see that there's a sense of evil about it. As Macbeth becomes king in Act 3, Lady Macbeth begins to lose her control. Key structural point, we know by Act 3, he is the king, okay, and she loses her control there. He tells her to be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck. She's questioning him about his role with Banquo, what he's going to do. Remember, she's still dearest to him, but he tells her to be innocent or she doesn't need to know the truth. At this point, with this quotation, we see that ambition is fully leading Macbeth. Okay, it seems as though she's being left behind a little bit. He's in charge, he knows what he's doing, his ambition drives him. When Banquo is killed, Macbeth sees Banquo's ghost at the banquet. And Lady Macbeth, in Act 3, Scene 4, repeats the word shame about her husband. It's clear that Lady Macbeth takes kindly to. She's already told him after the killing of Duncan that she would shame to wear a heart so white. And now we see the same thing again. We could argue that Lady Macbeth's mocking and exclamatory reaction is a forcing element in Macbeth going back to the witches. Perhaps Shakespeare says that this woman is so strong that she forces him back to the supernatural. Shakespeare makes it clear. Manipulation has the power to destroy if you let it, and Macbeth lets it. As we move into Act 5, it's clear that Lady Macbeth begins to descend into guilt. Okay, key structural point. She becomes guilty when he thinks he's invincible. The motif of blood comes back here. Now we know that blood represents Macbeth's guilt throughout the text. The dagger's got blood on it. He sees blood in his hands that Neptune's ocean can't wash away. He sees Banquo's ghost that's gory. So blood has been in every hallucination of Macbeth's. She says, out damn spot. Lady Macbeth is unable to clean blood from her hands, much like Macbeth says in Act 2, Scene 2. I want you to think about that word damned. To be damned means to go to hell, okay? Much like her husband early on. This woman isn't stupid. She knows the consequences of what she's done. So she almost becomes very similar to Macbeth, who's a tragic hero. She sees what she has done. She is not oblivious to her actions. She has the spirit to unsex me here early on. So she knew what she was getting herself into. And that's what Shakespeare wants us to see. I think he wants us to see her as a true villain. Lady Macbeth had been certain, masculine, fierce. But like I say, in Act 5, we see her doubts. She starts sleepwalking and talking to herself, and she says the Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? Lady Macbeth begins to talk in internalized rhyme. She sounds like the witches, and that shows the descent into evil is now complete. The Thane of Fife is Macduff. Her regrets about what has happened to Macduff's family turns her into a wreck. So that internalized rhyme, Fife and wife, makes it sound delusional, paranoid, like she's cursed. Any humanity that she had has now been lost. And again, Shakespeare's message in presenting Lady Macbeth like this is clear. Treason doesn't pay. He couldn't show Lady Macbeth to be a winner. It wouldn't have been allowed, okay? And Greek tragedy always sees those people who do bad things get the comeuppance. to see him in any Shakespearean tragedy, so she fits that. She knows that she's no longer got any power, or there isn't any chance of redemption. She says all the perfumes of Arabia can't sweeten this little hand. In this metaphor, there's a suggestion that nothing can cleanse Lady Macbeth now. Nothing can make her sweet again. Now, this quotation can be seen as parallel to all of Neptune's ocean that Macbeth has had to scene to. It's the same thing. In that scene, he says that nothing can cleanse me. She's saying that. Even the new world, Arabia, can't offer us salvation. Salvation doesn't exist on the earth for her. Arabia is thousands of miles away. It's a different world in those times. I also think you want to think about this quotation. Think about the word perfumes, sweeten and little hand. She spent all her time saying that she wants to be masculine, she wants her femininity removed, unsex me here, fill me crown to toe full of direst cruelty, make thick my blood. She said all that. At this point, though, now she's gone back to describe herself as feminine. The idea that, she realises what she's done. We all know that Lady Macbeth dies at the end, okay? And Macbeth hears about it and says she should have died hereafter. And out a brief candle. Think all the way back to the start. She was his dearest partner of greatness. She was his everything. He went to her and said, if we shall fail, she was the strength in him. And now he talks about her death in such a matter-of-fact way. It shows that basically ambition's taken away any love that he has. It's broken Macbeth. His ambition's broken him. However, we could also see that as regret. And when he says out brief candle, we might think about what candles are. Candles are lights in the darkness. They also have religious connotations. Perhaps Shakespeare reminds us that this is a love story and she'll always have Macbeth's heart. And without her, the light of his life, all is left to him is darkness. Okay, so best revision is to kind of have a go revision. And in this extract here, you will see this extract from Act 3. Lady Macbeth speaks to her husband when he sees the ghost of Banquo. And I've put this question, starting with the extract, how does Shakespeare present the marriage of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth? We know that we've got to have at least one quotation from the extract. We know we've got to think about the rest of the text. 30-mark question, that is. 50 minutes. And here's a rough plan that I've put together. Okay. For me, Shakespeare's key message, this marriage starts strong, but ambition destroys it. Ambition destroys the love that they have. And they both just become obsessed with power. My first paragraph would be at the beginning of the play. Macbeth's love for his wife is obvious, but it doesn't seem to be matched by his wife, okay? He calls her to his part of the greatness. She says she's going to pour spirits in that ear. Lady Macbeth is emasculating and controlling. She questions his masculinity and power. I've put my quotations. Put my quotations there in the third point, okay? His ambition grows. Lady Macbeth's power falters. So that's my 3-point essay. We know it's quality over quantity, but I think in reality you want a 3-point essay at least. For me, 2 points about the rest of the text, 1 point about the extract. I've gone chronologically, but you can structure however you want to. In your revision session, you'll look at example paragraphs, but we know the most important name is Shakespeare's, and we know we've got to layer our analysis. Okay? That's Lady Macbeth.